The evasive nature of UFOs. Is this benevolent behavior? This is an article concerning the evasive nature of the UFO phenomenon by Arjun Walia The Pulse, and it's on Collective Spark. The world's leading UFO researchers will all tell you the same thing. The vast majority of UFO encounters with human aircraft, be it civilian or military, perform evasive maneuvers to avoid our own aircraft. This has been what's reported for decades, and that's made clear by going through the literature that describes military and civilian encounters with UFOs. Regardless of this, much of the sentiment in mainstream media right now still points to UFOs being a threat to national security. A statement by General Nathan Twining, former Chief of Staff for the United States Air Force, reads as follows. The phenomenon reported is something real and not visionary or fictitious. The reported operating characteristics such as extreme rates of climb, maneuverability, particularly in roll, and actions which must be considered evasive when sighted or contacted by friendly aircraft and radar, lend belief that the possibility that some of the objects are controlled either manually, automatically, or remotely, end quote. So why, if they are performing evasive maneuvers, have multiple governments tried to take down these crafts? Well, obviously because they want to know who's behind them. It could be someone who is not an ally, just the opposite. Kindly support my Patreon account since YouTube has again demonetized my YouTube channel. The daily posts are 5 videos daily, and they are totally different from what I have on my YouTube channel. Thank you so much for your support and that you find all my content so interesting. You'll find the Patreon account details in the description box below. At a 2008 conference in Toronto, former Canadian Defence Minister Paul Hellyer emphasized that the protocol for military pilots when encountering UFO was to shoot first and ask questions later. Colonel Ross Diedrichson, a U.S. Air Force colonel who had an 8-year stint with the Atomic Energy Commission, stated his belief and inside knowledge, quote-unquote, that these objects were piloted by non-humans and that our response to their appearance in our atmosphere was aggressive. David Clark, an investigative journalist, reader, and lecturer at Sheffield Hallam University, who was also the curator of the National Archives UFO project from 2008-2013, came across some interesting documents suggesting that the UK was desperate to capture UFO technology. Eric W. Davis, a renowned astrophysicist who worked with the Pentagon UFO program, stated that he gave a classified briefing to a Defense Department agency as recently as March 2020 about retrievals from, quote, off-world vehicles not made on this earth, end quote. Would these desires explain our aggressive behaviors? There have been thousands of encounters exemplifying these evasive maneuvers. For example, in 1976, residents of Tehran, Iran, noticed a big bright object in the sky. The airport traffic controller also noticed military jets were scrambling and a game of cat and mouse ensued. And let's remember what happened to some Russia. Just now, off the top of my head, remember what happened when a UFO encountered some Russian soldiers. It turned them into stone. It fired a ray at them and turned them into stone. So obviously that's not at all benevolent. Now, going back to the article, both of the F-4 interceptor pilots reported seeing the object visually. It was also tracked on the airborne radar. Both planes had their critical instrumentation and electronic systems go offline at a distance of 25 miles from the object, including when they attempted to fire upon the object. Now, the evasive characteristics of these objects had renowned UFO researcher and scientist Dr. Jacques Vallée state the following on the Joe Rogan show. Quote, we have to stop reacting to intrusions by UFO as a threat. This should not be looked at as a threat. With the phenomenon that we observe, if we wanted to blow up those F-18s, they would do it. Obviously, that's not what it's all about, and this idea of just labeling it as a threat because it's unknown, that is the wrong idea, he said. Now, can we make the assumption that this is benevolent behavior? It's hard to say. If you go beyond simple UFO cases and move into supposed contact stories, where individuals have claimed to have contact with and or communicate with supposed beings operating these unknown crafts, you find that stories of these beings being concerned about the direction humanity is going also seems to be a dominant theme. The aerial school encounter that took place in Zimbabwe in 1944 is one of the many great examples. Over 60 school children all witnessed beings emerge from the craft that landed near their school. They were heavily studied and all shared very similar stories as one another. Generally, the children were told by these beings that humanity is not taking care of the planet properly and that if we don't change, things will get very bad. That being said, there are also malevolent or seemingly malevolent contact type of stories out there. That's a different, much deeper discussion, as these generally break down into stories that might involve perceived threat versus real threat, as well as other key distinctions. At the end of the day, our aggressive response to the behavior of these objects, including shooting at them, does not seem like a necessary response. If these objects have been around for several decades and have not demonstrated any clear malevolent behavior, why do we respond in that manner? Or as I said before, a UFO turns Russian soldiers into stone a couple of decades back. That's not at all benevolent. So is our response and behavior towards these objects indicative of the level of consciousness humanity currently operates at? One where we fear that we don't understand and instead of being curious, we simply attack? If you were an intelligent being from somewhere else observing our planet, the way we treated each other, animals, and more, what would you think? The reason is not so important for us to examine this topic more closely than that secrecy has plagued the UFO story for decades. The more we continue to rely on big government for answers, the more we seem to be deceived and drifting from the truth, perhaps out of a materialistic mindset or for some other reason. This is from The Pulse, and here on Creative Commons on Collective Spark. Please leave your comments and thank you for your support.